Today we're going to assemble the M41A Pulse Rifle from Spat Cave Studios, affectionately known as the Spulse Rifle. First thing you want to do is take all the parts out of the box and make sure you have them all. First, you should have your two halves of your shroud. You should have two halves of your Spulse cage with pump handle. You should have your two halves of your magazine well. You should have your LED counter with switch and battery holder. Should have your rifle handle and trigger. Should have your rifle stock. Should have your barrel and shroud. Should have your magazine bottom. Should have your grenade barrel. Should have your front and back plate. After you inspect your pieces, you want to wash them in soapy water to make sure all the residue is gone. Then you want to dry them thoroughly. You have now washed and dried your parts. So now we're going to sand them and test fit them. One of the things I like to do is I like to make a longer sanding block. What this does, it allows you to keep straighter and crisper edges. If you do it by hand with a smaller one, you can make some divots. We'll take up one piece of the shroud and we'll run it down the sides like this. Now you can either move the part or the sanding block, but what that'll do is give you a nice straight line. You can even make a longer one than this. You also want to make sure the inside is completely roughed up. Get rid of all the shiny parts, otherwise the glue won't adhere. Once the two are sanded, also as a safety tip, you want to sand outside and you want to use a mask. For the majority of the sanding, that's what we do. But now you want to test fit your pieces. And if it looks like you're good, you're ready to pin and glue them. You also want to do the same thing with the other ones that are in halves. You want to clean up the lines. You want to rough up the inside. Then you want to do a test fit. Make sure it lines up before you glue it. And that looks pretty good. Okay, now that you have it sanded and it's lined up the way you want, we're going to glue and pin it. You can also countersink screws, but I prefer pins. For pins, I'm using drywall screws. To expedite this, I've already cut the heads off. So the first thing you want to do is mark where they go. So I'm going to put one right here, and right here. Going to take our Dremel and Dremel the holes. Again, you should be doing this outside. Now you want to be careful you don't go all the way through the piece. Some people will use what they call a stop mark or a piece of tape on your bit. That way you don't go all the way through. We're going to put our 3 pins in here. I'm going to put our screws in the piece. Then we're going to try and line up the sides. Make sure that we get the screw holes matched up. Give them a little squeeze just to mark it. And I'm going to try and make these a little looser so it slides in easier. And we will be using Gorilla Glue. Gorilla Glue, you need to wet down both sides of the piece, or both surfaces of the piece, to use them. So we're taking a damp cloth. Now it doesn't have to be real thick. And then we're just going to spread it out, popsicle stick. Now I don't go all the way to the edge because Gorilla Glue, the plus and the minus is it expands. It'll fill in the gaps, but it'll also come out the sides of the seams, so you want to be careful with that. I get about 1/4 inch of the way. But there may be some cleanup on the outside as it comes around the seams. Put a little extra in the holes. Then we're going to take our clamps and we'll put that aside to dry. Now we're going to do the same thing with the shroud. We're going to pin it, but you can also you could use these screw markers and actually screw it together yourself from the outside, or you can countersink screws, but you'd have to cover them up. But we're going to use the same process we used on the shroud.